She was just a nurse picking up her son from school when she saw a little boy wander into danger. Without thinking, she shielded him with her body. The next morning, the Mafia boss showed up at her door with his son, declaring her family was now under his protection. The bandage on Aria's left hand was coming loose again. She fumbled with the medical tape while steering her beat-up Honda through after-school traffic, already 10 minutes late. The hospital shift had run over, again, and now Milo would be standing alone by the school gates, scanning every car with those worried brown eyes that made her heart crack. Come on, she muttered, switching lanes. Being a single mom meant running on 3 hours of sleep and cold coffee. Being a night shift nurse meant her body never knew if it was morning or midnight. But being Milo's only parent? That meant she couldn't afford to be late. Not when he'd already lost so much. Aria pulled into the school parking lot at 3:47 p.m., her nurse's scrubs still wrinkled from the hospital. Parents clustered in their usual groups, the yoga moms in their matching athletic wear, the business dads on their phones, the nannies chatting in Spanish. She didn't fit anywhere. She never had time to. She spotted Milo immediately, his backpack nearly as big as his 7-year-old frame, standing by the flagpole. But he wasn't alone. He was talking to another boy, smaller, with dark curly hair and an expensive-looking jacket. Aria climbed out of her car just as the children started pouring through the gates. The usual chaos, kids shrieking, parents calling names, teachers waving goodbye. She raised her hand to catch Milo's attention. That's when she saw him. The small boy with the expensive jacket had wandered away from Milo, drifting toward the street. His attention was locked on something across the road, maybe an ice cream truck, maybe a dog. He was stepping off the curb. Aria's nurse instincts kicked in before her brain could catch up. Hey, sweetheart, stop. The boy didn't hear her over the noise. She started moving, her tired legs suddenly finding energy. The boy was in the street now, and a black SUV was turning the corner too fast, music blaring from its windows. Stop! Aria screamed, running. She was 3 feet away when she heard it. Not the screech of brakes. Gunfire. The sound ripped through the air, sharp, crackling, impossible. Parents screamed. Children dropped to the ground. The world turned into a confusion of movement and noise. But Aria's body knew only one thing: protect the child. She threw herself over the small boy, knocking him flat against the pavement, covering his body with hers. Pain exploded across her shoulder, hot, sharp, unlike anything she'd ever felt. She gasped but didn't move, keeping the boy pinned safely beneath her. More gunshots. Closer now. She could hear them ricocheting off metal, shattering glass. Then, tires. Multiple vehicles moving fast. Black SUVs screeched in from both ends of the street, boxing in the shooter's car. Doors flew open. Men in dark suits emerged, moving with military precision. They weren't police. Their movements were too coordinated, too aggressive, too organized. Aria's vision swam. The pain in her shoulder was spreading, warm and wet. Blood. She was bleeding. Luca. A man's voice, sharp with panic. Luca. Strong hands gripped Aria's arms, pulling her up. She fought weakly, trying to stay over the boy, but there were too many hands now. Someone was checking the child. Someone else was pressing something against her shoulder. She's hit, a gruff voice said. Grazed, but she's losing blood. Get the boy in the car. Now. Nana. That was Milo's voice, terrified and far away. Nana. Aria tried to turn toward her son, but the world tilted. A man in an expensive suit blocked her view. Not one of the bodyguards, someone else. Someone important. His face was sharp angles and cold fury, black hair swept back, eyes like winter storms. Don't move her yet, he commanded. Then, more gently, kneeling beside her. Who are you? I'm Milo's mom. Aria managed. Is the boy? Luca's safe. Because of you, the man's voice cracked on those last words, just barely. You threw yourself over my son. Anyone would've. No, he cut her off. They wouldn't have. The small boy, Luca, was struggling in a bodyguard's arms, reaching toward Arya.
Papa.
Papa, she saved me. Don't let her go.
Papa.
The word hung in the air. Arya's nursing brain, even foggy with pain, put the pieces together. The coordinated security, the expensive suits, the military-grade response to a shooting, the way everyone deferred to this man. The way he carried violence in his shoulders and command in his voice. This wasn't just a wealthy father. This was someone dangerous. We need to get her to a hospital, one of the bodyguards said urgently. The man, Papa, Luca's father, stood. St. Mary's. Use our trauma team. I want her in the best room, and I want updates every 15 minutes, he paused, looking down at Arya with an expression she couldn't read. And find out who fired those shots. I want names by midnight. But sir, she's not. She saved my son's life. His voice dropped to something quiet and absolutely final. That makes her mine to protect now. Is that clear? Yes, Mr. Romano.
Romano.
Even through the pain, Arya knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. You didn't live here without hearing whispers about the Romano family and their business interests. Wait. Arya tried to sit up. My son. Milo. I need to. The boy with the blue backpack? Romano asked. He's safe. He'll ride with you. I can't afford. You're not paying for anything. Romano's expression softened just slightly. You took a bullet for my son. There is no debt I could pay that would balance that scale, but I will try. Sirens approached. Police, finally. But Romano's men were already moving her toward one of their SUVs, more gently than she expected. Milo was there suddenly, crying, gripping her good hand. Mama, you're bleeding. I'm okay, baby.
I'm okay.
But she wasn't sure that was true. Not about the wound. That would heal. But about everything else? About what she'd just stepped into by saving Luca Romano. As they loaded her into the SUV, Arya caught Romano's eyes one more time. There was something in his gaze that made her shiver despite the pain, a promise, or maybe a warning. She'd saved his son's life. And Dante Romano, she was beginning to understand, was a man who always repaid his debts. Whether she wanted him to or not. The private hospital room was nicer than Arya's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the late afternoon sun painting everything gold. The bed had actual cotton sheets. She could tell from the thread count. A leather couch sat against one wall, and fresh flowers adorned the side table. This wasn't a hospital room. This was a hotel suite that happened to have medical equipment. This is insane, Arya muttered, trying to sit up. The pain medication made her head fuzzy, but not fuzzy enough to ignore reality. Lie down, Mama. Milo was curled in a chair beside her bed, still wearing his backpack. His eyes were red from crying. The doctor said you have to rest. The doctor had been a trauma surgeon pulled from an actual surgery to treat her Gray's wound. The bullet had carved a line across her shoulder, painful, bloody, but not serious. 30 stitches and she'd be fine. The bill, however, would destroy her. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. The door opened, and Dante Romano stepped inside, his son's hand clasped in his. Arya's body tensed automatically. In the chaos outside the school, he'd seemed almost human, worried, grateful, shaken. But here, in the quiet of the hospital room, she could see him clearly. The expensive suit that probably cost more than her car. The way he moved like a predator, smooth and controlled. The coldness in his dark eyes that suggested he'd seen terrible things and possibly done worse. Ms. He paused, realizing he didn't know her name.
Chun.
Arya Chin. She pulled the blanket higher, suddenly aware she was in a hospital gown. And, you're Dante Romano. His eyebrow lifted slightly. You know who I am. Everyone knows who you are. She kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. Which is why you need to understand something. I'm grateful for the medical care, but I can't be involved with With whatever you are. Papa's not bad. Lucas suddenly burst out, pulling away from his father. The small boy ran to Aria's bedside, his dark eyes fierce. He helps people. And you saved me, so now we're friends forever. Aria's heart squeezed. Up close, Luca looked younger than Milo, maybe 5 or 6, with his father's dark curls and a gap-toothed smile that transformed his whole face. There was something fragile about him, something that made her nurse instincts kick in automatically. Luca, Dante's voice was gentle but firm. The lady needs rest. But I want to thank her properly. Luca climbed onto the edge of Aria's bed, careful of her injured shoulder. Papa says you were very brave. He says you're a hero. I'm not a hero, Aria said softly. I saw you in danger, and I reacted. Any parent would have done the same. But you're not my parent, Luca said with a child's brutal logic. You didn't have to save me. But you did anyway. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled drawing. I made this for you. It's you and me and the angels. Aria took the paper with her good hand. The drawing showed 2 stick figures, one big, one small, surrounded by messily colored wings. Her throat tightened. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll keep it forever. Dante cleared his throat. Luca, why don't you and Milo wait outside? I saw a vending machine down the hall. Marco will take you. Can we, Mama? Milo asked, speaking for the first time since Romano entered. He'd been watching the Mafia boss with wide, uncertain eyes. Aria wanted to say no, wanted to keep her son close. But Milo needed a break from seeing her in a hospital bed.
Okay.
But stay with Marco, and don't wander off. The bodyguard from earlier, Marco, apparently, appeared in the doorway as if summoned. The boys left, Luca chattering excitedly about chocolate bars while Milo remained quiet. The moment the door closed, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Dante moved to the window, his back to her. The men who shot at my son are dead. Aria's stomach turned. That was fast. I have efficient people. He turned to face her, and for the first time, she saw exhaustion in his features. They were hired guns. Low-level. Someone paid them to grab Luca from the school. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you stepped into. He moved closer, his voice dropping. My son is the heir to the Romano family. That makes him a target. It makes everyone close to him a target. He paused. Including you now. Aria's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? I'm a nurse. A single mother. I have nothing to do with your world. You did the moment you threw yourself over Luca. Dante's expression was grim. By tomorrow, everyone in the city will know that someone risked their life for a Romano. They'll wonder who you are, what you mean to us. And my enemies, he stopped, jaw tight. They'll see you as leverage. That's not my problem. Yes, he said quietly. It is. Because I've already declared you under my protection. Every family in the city knows by now, you saved my son, which means you're untouchable. Any harm that comes to you is a declaration of war against the Romanos. Aria felt like the room was spinning. You can't just decide that. I don't want your protection. I don't want anything to do with the Mafia. I understand. Dante's voice was surprisingly gentle. But what you want stopped mattering the moment those bullets started flying. You're part of this now, Aria-chan. And I promise you, I will repay this debt. He headed for the door, then paused. The hospital bill is covered. Your rent for the next 6 months is covered. And starting tomorrow, you'll have security. I don't want. It's non-negotiable. He opened the door. Get some rest. You'll need it. He left, and Aria was alone with the setting sun and the horrible realization that her entire life had just changed. And she hadn't even gotten a choice. Aria barely slept that night. The hospital kept her for observation, standard procedure for gunshot wounds, the nurse explained, though Aria suspected Dante Romano's orders had more to do with it. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flash of gunfire, felt the impact of the bullet, heard Luca's terrified breathing beneath her. Milo slept curled up on the leather couch, his small body finally relaxed after hours of worry. She'd convinced him she was fine, that they'd go home tomorrow, that everything would return to normal. But she'd been lying. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Your car has been detailed and the bullet damage repaired. Keys with hospital security.
M.
At 3 a.m., another message. Background check complete. No outstanding warrants or debts. Credit score could use work. I've handled it. Arya stared at her phone in disbelief. He'd run a background check? Fixed her credit? Who did that? At 4 a.m., she gave up on sleep and checked her bank account, dreading what she'd find. Instead, she nearly dropped her phone. Her overdraft was gone. The medical bills that had been in collections for 2 years gone. And there was a deposit that made her hands shake, $50,000 with a note. Initial gratitude. More to follow.
She was going to be sick.
By 7 a.m., when the doctor cleared her for discharge, Arya had made a decision. She needed to talk to Romano face-to-face and make him understand. She didn't want his money, his protection, or his dangerous world touching her son. But when she and Milo reached the hospital lobby, Dante Romano was already there. He stood by the entrance in a different suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, with Luca holding his hand. The little boy's face lit up when he saw them. "You're awake." Papa said we had to come say good morning. Several people in the lobby had stopped to stare. A Mafia boss didn't typically show up at hospitals at 7 a.m. with his son. Phones were coming out. Pictures were being taken. Arya's stomach sank. This was exactly what she'd feared. "Mr. Romano," she said carefully, aware of the audience. "This isn't necessary. Dante, please." He gestured to a private waiting room off the main lobby. "May we speak?" She wanted to refuse, but Luca was already pulling Milo toward a toy corner in the waiting room, and she couldn't make a scene. Not here, not with her son watching. The moment the door closed behind them, Arya turned on him. "Stop. Whatever you're doing, the money, the messages showing up here, it needs to stop." Dante studied her with those unsettling dark eyes. "You're angry."
I'm terrified.
The words burst out before she could stop them. "You said it yourself, I'm a target now because of what I did. And instead of backing off, you're making it worse. You're throwing money at me, running background checks, showing up at hospitals where people can see us together. You're painting a bigger target on my back." "No," Dante said quietly. "I'm making sure everyone knows that Target is protected. There's a difference. I don't want to be protected by a criminal." The word hung in the air between them. Arya immediately regretted it. Not because it wasn't true, but because the flash of something dark in Dante's eyes reminded her exactly who she was talking to. But he didn't explode. Instead, he moved to the window, watching his son play with Milo in the toy corner. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost sad. "My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. She was good, Arya. Truly good. She tried to pull me away from the family business, wanted Luca to have a different life." He paused. "The night before she died, she made me promise to keep him safe. To give him as normal a childhood as possible. Do you know how hard that is when you're Romano?" Arya's anger faltered. She hadn't expected vulnerability. "Yesterday," Dante continued, "I was in a meeting 2 hours away. My phone rang, and someone said there'd been a shooting at Luca's school. For 2 hours, the longest 2 hours of my life, I didn't know if my son was alive or dead. When I arrived and saw him crying but safe, saw you bleeding because you'd thrown yourself over him," his voice cracked. "You gave me my son back. You honored my wife's dying wish when you didn't even know it existed." He turned to face her, and Arya saw the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate gratitude of a father who'd almost lost everything. "I know you're not a criminal," he said. "I know you want nothing to do with my world. But I also know that what I am, what my family is, comes with responsibilities. One of those responsibilities is honor. You saved my son's life. That debt is absolute. It's not negotiable, it's not optional, and it's not something I can walk away from. So, I don't get a choice." "You have every choice," Dante said firmly. "You can refuse the money, I'll donate it to your hospital instead. You can refuse the security, but I'll have them watch from a distance anyway because I won't risk your life. You can hate me, curse me, never speak to me again. He stepped closer, his voice intense. But you cannot stop me from keeping you safe. That's the one choice you don't have, because that's the one thing I cannot compromise on. Arya looked through the window at Milo and Luca, laughing together over a toy truck. Her son looked happier than he had in months. I just want my normal life back, she whispered. I know, Dante said gently. And I'm sorry. But that life ended yesterday. Now we figure out what comes next. The door opened, and Marco stuck his head in. Boss, we need to move. School starts in 40 minutes. Dante nodded, then looked at Arya. Let me at least drive you home. She should refuse. Should grab Milo and run as far from Dante Romano as possible. But when Luca took her good hand and said, Please, Papa's car has heated seats, she found herself nodding. It was just a ride home, she told herself. It didn't mean anything. But deep down, she knew that was another lie. Arya's apartment had never felt smaller. She stood in the doorway, Milo pressed against her side, staring at the peeling wallpaper and the kitchen faucet that dripped no matter how tight she turned it. After the luxury hospital room and Dante's sleek SUV with its leather interior, her home looked like what it was, the best a single nurse could afford on night shift wages. Home sweet home, she muttered, helping Milo with his backpack. Mama, can Luca come over sometime? Milo asked, heading straight for the cereal boxes. He said he's never had regular Cheerios. Only the organic kind. We'll see, baby. Arya moved to the window, a habit she developed years ago, checking the street, the parking lot, the shadows. Being a single mom in a rough neighborhood meant staying alert. But today, something was different. A black sedan sat across the street, engine off, windows tinted. As she watched, a second car pulled into the lot, dark blue, equally anonymous. Two men in casual clothes leaned against it, not quite looking at her building but clearly watching it. Her blood ran cold. Milo, go brush your teeth and get ready for bed. But it's only 8:30. Now, please. Something in her tone made him obey without further argument. The moment his bedroom door closed, Arya grabbed her phone. She pulled up the last unknown number that had texted her, presumably Marco, and typed, Are those your people outside my building? The response came within seconds.
Yes.
Night shift. They'll be discreet.
I don't want them here.
Not my call. Boss's orders. Arya wanted to throw her phone. Instead, she paced the tiny living room, her shoulder throbbing with each step. This was insane. She had armed men watching her apartment. Her son was asking about playdates with a Mafia heir. And somewhere in the city, people were apparently considering her a target. A sharp knock made her jump. She approached the door cautiously, checking the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, late 30s, athletic build, wearing jeans and a blazer that didn't quite hide the bulge at her hip. Security. Arya opened the door, but kept the chain on. Can I help you? Ms. Chun, I'm Sophia. I work for Mr. Romano. The woman's voice was calm, professional. May I come in? This will only take a moment. Every instinct screamed to say no. But the woman's eyes were kind, and somehow that made it worse. This wasn't some threatening enforcer. This was someone doing a job. Arya unlatched the chain. Sophia stepped inside, quickly scanning the apartment with practiced efficiency. Nice place. Good sightlines from the window, single entry point, solid door. You've got good instincts. I'm a single mom in a rough neighborhood. You develop instincts. Arya crossed her arms. What do you want? To be honest with you, Sophia moved to the window, careful to stay to the side. The men outside? They're not just for show. We have credible intelligence that the people who hired yesterday's shooters are looking for information. They want to know who you are, where you live, what you mean to the Romano family. Arya's mouth went dry.
What do I mean to them?
Nothing. I saved a child. That's it. That's not how they see it, Sophia turned back to her. Mr. Romano made a very public statement at the hospital this morning. He was photographed with you and your son. That tells the world you're important to him. In our world, that makes you valuable.
Valuable, Aria repeated numbly.
Like a bargaining chip. Like leverage, Sophia's expression softened. I know this isn't what you wanted. But here's the reality. For the next few weeks, maybe months, you need protection. The people watching you aren't going away just because you want them to. So, what am I supposed to do? Live like a prisoner in my own home.
No.
You live your life. Go to work, take care of your son, be normal. But you let us do our job. Sophia pulled a card from her pocket. This is my personal number. You call me if anything feels wrong. A car following you, someone asking questions, anything. You don't wait. You don't second guess. You call. Aria took the card with shaking fingers. How long does this last? Until the threat is neutralized, Sophia hesitated. Miss Chun, I've worked for the Romano family for 8 years. I've seen Dante Romano do a lot of things, some of them good, most of them necessary, a few of them terrible. But I've never seen him like he was yesterday. You saved his son, his heir, the only family he has left. He will burn this city to the ground before he lets anything happen to you. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true. Sophia headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, you did a brave thing. Most people would have run from gunfire. You ran toward it. That means something. After Sophia left, Aria stood in her silent apartment, the card burning in her hand. Through the window, she could see the dark sedan, the casual guards, the new reality of her life. Milo emerged from his room in his pajamas, clutching his stuffed dinosaur.
Mama?
Why are there people outside? She knelt down, ignoring the pull of her stitches, and hugged him tight. Just some friends making sure we're safe, baby. Friends of the man with a fancy car?
Yeah.
Milo considered this. I like Luca. He's nice. And his papa seems nice too, even though he looks scary. Aria closed her eyes. Her 7-year-old had just summarized Dante Romano perfectly. That night, she barely slept again. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. Every car engine in the parking lot had her checking the window. The guards stayed through the night, silent sentinels in the darkness. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. Sleep. You're safe. I promise.
D.
She stared at the message, at that single-letter signature. Dante Romano was awake at 3 a.m., apparently monitoring her security feed or getting updates from his people. She should have been angry, should have felt invaded, controlled, trapped. Instead, she felt something far more dangerous, protected. And that terrified her most of all. Morning came too quickly. Aria jolted awake to her alarm, her shoulder screaming in protest. For one blissful second, she forgot about yesterday. Then reality crashed back, the shooting, the hospital, the guards outside her building. She dragged herself out of bed and went through the motions, coffee, painkillers, waking Milo, packing his lunch. Normal things. Safe things. Do I have to go to school today? Milo asked over his cereal. Everyone's going to ask about yesterday. Yes, baby. Life goes on even when it feels like it shouldn't, she added silently. The drive to school was different. A dark sedan followed 3 cars back, close enough to respond, far enough to seem coincidental. Aria's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The school parking lot was chaos as usual. Parents dropping off kids, teachers directing traffic, crossing guards with their stop signs. Everything normal. Everything the same. Except for the black SUV parked in the principal's spot. Aria's stomach dropped.
No.
He wouldn't. He couldn't possibly. The SUV's back door opened, and Dante Romano stepped out. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, his dark hair perfectly styled. But it wasn't his appearance that made parents stop and stare. It was the way he moved, commanding, dangerous, impossible to ignore. And the small boy whose hand he held. Luca, dressed in his school uniform, beamed up at his father. Oh my God! Arya breathed. She'd parked 3 rows away, but she could see everything. Could see Dante walking Luca toward the school entrance. Could see every parent turning to watch. Could see phones coming out, cameras pointing, whispers spreading like wildfire. "Mama, isn't that Luca?" Milo pressed against the window. "Why is his papa bringing him to school?" Because Dante Romano was making a statement. Arya fumbled with her seatbelt, her hands shaking. She needed to stop this, needed to make him understand that this kind of attention was the last thing she wanted. She climbed out of her car, Milo scrambling behind her. That's when Dante saw her. His expression shifted, still serious, but something warmer flickered in his eyes. He said something to Luca, who immediately started jumping up and down.
Arya.
"Milo." Luca's voice carried across the parking lot. Every head turned toward her. Arya felt like she was standing under a spotlight. The yoga moms stared. The business dads watched with calculating eyes. The nannies whispered in rapid Spanish. Even the teachers had stopped to look. Dante walked toward her with Luca, completely unbothered by the attention. When he reached her, he nodded politely. "Ms. Chun, how's your shoulder?" "What are you doing here?" she hissed, too quiet for others to hear. "Taking my son to school." His tone was innocent, but his eyes held a knowing glint. "Is that not allowed?" "Papa never comes to school," Luca announced proudly. "But today he said it was special. He said we had to check on you and Milo." Milo looked between them, confused but pleased to see his new friend.
Look.
"Can you walk with us?" Luca grabbed Milo's hand. "Papa, can they? Please." Dante looked at Arya. If Ms. Chin doesn't mind. She minded. She minded everything about this. But Luca's hopeful face and Milo's cautious smile trapped her. She couldn't make a scene, couldn't reject a child, couldn't explain to her son why they needed to stay away from his new friend. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth. "Let's walk." The 4 of them moved toward the school entrance, Dante and Arya behind the boys, who chattered excitedly about something called Beyblades. It should have been normal. Should have been just 2 parents walking their kids to school. But nothing about this was normal. "You're angry," Dante said quietly, his voice meant only for her. "You think?" Arya kept her smile fixed for the boys' sake. "Every person here is staring at us. Taking pictures. By noon, this will be all over social media. Mafia boss shows up at elementary school. That's going to be great for the school, great for my son, great for... I'm protecting you. By making me more visible?" She nearly laughed. "That's the opposite of protection." "No," Dante's voice hardened. "Making you visible makes you untouchable. Every family in this city now knows you're under Romano protection. They see me here, see me with you and our sons together, and they understand. You're not a target. You're family. I'm not your family." They don't know that he nodded to a parent filming them on her phone. And that ambiguity keeps you safer than any number of guards. They reached the school entrance, where Mrs. Patterson, the principal, stood frozen. Her eyes were wide, her smile strained. "Mr. Romano, what an unexpected pleasure." "Mrs. Patterson," Dante's smile was sharp. "I wanted to personally ensure Luke is safe after yesterday's incident. And to express my gratitude to Ms. Chun here, who saved my son's life." The principal's gaze swiveled to Arya, reassessing her completely. "Of course. We're all so grateful. So very, very grateful. I trust you'll ensure both boys feel safe here?" Dante's tone made it clear this wasn't a question. That they're looked after? Protected? "Absolutely, Mr. Romano. Whatever you need." Luca hugged his father goodbye, then surprised everyone by hugging Arya too. "Thank you for yesterday," he whispered. "Papa says you're my guardian angel." Arya's throat tightened. "Just be safe, sweetheart." The boys ran inside together, and suddenly Arya was alone with Dante and 50 staring parents. He turned to her, his voice carrying just enough for nearby listeners to hear. "I've arranged for a security consultant to review the school's protocols. And I'll be making a donation to upgrade their surveillance system." He paused. It's the least I can do for the school that educates the woman who saved my son. Mr. Romano. Have a good day, Miss Chin. He walked back to his SUV, leaving her standing there. Her phone buzzed immediately. Text from an unknown number. Did you see? Dante Romano at Lakewood Elementary. Then another. Who is that woman with him? And another. Holy shit, is she dating Romano? Arya looked up to find every parent still watching her. Some with curiosity, some with fear, some with envy. The yoga moms had formed a tight cluster, whispering intensely. One of the business dads was already on his phone. By the time she reached her car, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the keys. Dante Romano had just made her the most talked-about person in the city. And he'd done it on purpose. The hospital cafeteria buzzed with the usual morning chaos, doctors grabbing coffee between rounds, nurses trading shift gossip, orderlies scrolling through their phones. Arya sat alone at a corner table, her untouched oatmeal growing cold. She'd hoped work would be her escape, her normal, but she'd been wrong. Is it true? Jenny, one of the ER nurses, dropped into the chair across from her. Please tell me it's not true. Arya didn't need to ask what. Her phone had been exploding since she left the school. Texts, calls, social media notifications she didn't even know she could get. Someone had uploaded a video to TikTok. Mafia boss walks kids to school. It had 50,000 views in 2 hours. It's complicated, Arya said weakly. Complicated? Girl, Dante Romano walked your son to school. There's a photo of you two on Twitter with the caption Romano's mystery woman. Jenny leaned in, her voice dropping. Are you insane? Do you know what he is? I saved his son from a shooter. That's it. That's the whole story. That's not what people are saying. Jenny pulled out her phone, scrolling rapidly. Look at this. Sources say Romano has been visiting Chen at her apartment, and this one. Romano paid off Chen's medical debts. Are they secretly together? Oh, and my personal favorite. Single mom nurse seduces mafia boss for protection. Arya felt sick. None of that is true. Doesn't matter. It's out there now. Jenny's expression softened. Arya, I'm worried about you. The Romano family isn't just rich criminals. They're dangerous. People who get involved with them end up dead or worse. I'm not involved with them. Then why is there a guy in a suit standing by the hospital entrance who's been watching you since you arrived? Arya's head snapped up. Through the cafeteria windows, she could see the main entrance. Sure enough, a man in dark clothing stood near the automatic doors, his posture casual but his attention focused. Her security detail, following her to work. I need to go. Arya stood abruptly, abandoning her oatmeal. Arya, wait. But she was already walking toward the entrance, anger overriding common sense. The guard, not Marco, someone new, straightened as she approached. You need to leave, she said flatly. I'm at work. This is a hospital. You can't just stand here watching me. Ma'am, I have orders. I don't care about your orders. Go away. The guard's expression didn't change. I can't do that. But I can be less obvious. Would that help? Arya wanted to scream. Instead, she pulled out her phone and called the number Sophia had given her last night. The woman answered on the first ring. Ms. Chun, everything okay? No, everything is not okay. There's a guard at my workplace. My coworkers are asking questions I can't answer. There are rumors online that I'm... She couldn't even say it. You need to call this off. All of it. I understand you're frustrated.
Do you?
Because I'm about to lose my job for associating with criminals. I'm being harassed on social media. And Dante Romano just made everything worse by turning the school drop-off into a public spectacle. Silence. Then Sophia's voice, carefully neutral. Mr. Romano is trying to protect you. By destroying my life. By making you too visible to touch. Ms. Chun, the alternative is keeping you hidden while threats circle. Which do you prefer? Arya closed her eyes. I prefer my life from 3 days ago. I know. But that's not an option anymore. After she hung up, Arya turned to find Dr. Patel, the hospital administrator, approaching with a tight smile. Her stomach sank. Arya, could we speak in my office? The walk down the corridor felt like a death march. Dr. Patel's office was small, professional, with diplomas on the walls and a dying ficus in the corner. He closed the door and gestured to a chair. I'm going to get fired, Arya said before he could speak.
What?
No, Dr. Patel looked genuinely surprised. Arya, you're one of our best nurses. Why would we fire you? Because of everything. The media attention. She couldn't say Mafia connections. The situation. Actually, I wanted to discuss something else entirely. He pulled out a folder. We received a donation this morning. Anonymous, but substantial. It's funding a new trauma wing, updated equipment, and, interestingly, full scholarships for staff members who want to pursue advanced degrees. Arya's blood ran cold. How substantial? $2 million. She knew. Even before Dr. Patel said anything else, she knew exactly who'd sent that money. The donor made one request, Dr. Patel continued, that we take excellent care of our nursing staff, particularly those who've shown exceptional bravery in protecting others. He looked at her meaningfully. Any idea who might have sent this? Arya's hands clenched in her lap. Dr. Patel, I don't want special treatment. This isn't special treatment. This is someone recognizing the hospital's value. And between you and me, he leaned forward. I don't care if this came from the Pope or the devil himself. That money will save lives. It'll train better nurses, buy better equipment, help more patients. If your association brought this to us, then I'm grateful. Even if that association is with the Romano family? Dr. Patel's expression didn't change. I'm a doctor, Arya. I see people from all walks of life. Some are saints, some are sinners, most are both. What I care about is whether they help or harm. He stood. You saved a child's life. That's what matters to me. The rest? That's your business. After she left his office, Arya found a bathroom and locked herself in a stall. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number she now knew was Dante. Heard about the workplace concerns.
I've handled it.
You're welcome. She typed back furiously. I didn't ask you to donate to my hospital. I didn't ask you to fix my problems. Stop helping me. His response came immediately. I promise to repay my debt. I keep my promises. Always. This isn't repaying a debt. This is taking over my life. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, meet me tonight. Let me explain properly.
Please.
Arya stared at the message. She should refuse. Should block his number, quit her job, take Milo, and disappear to another city. But she thought of Luca's gap-toothed smile, of Milo's happiness at having a friend, of the $2 million that would save countless lives. Where? She typed. Somewhere public. Somewhere safe. Your choice. She named a coffee shop 3 blocks from her apartment. Bright, busy, normal. A place where mafia bosses didn't belong. 8 p.m. I'll be there. No guards inside.
Deal.
Arya emerged from the bathroom to find Jenny waiting outside. You okay? No, Arya said honestly. But I'm handling it. Jenny studied her face. Just be careful, okay? Whatever this is, whatever he wants, remember, you don't owe anyone your whole life. Not even if they saved it first. But as Arya returned to her rounds, she wondered if Jenny was wrong. Because Dante Romano hadn't saved her life. She'd saved his son's. And somehow, that had made everything infinitely more complicated. The community park was neutral territory. Arya had chosen it carefully, open space, plenty of witnesses, no dark corners where danger could hide. It was Saturday afternoon, the park filled with families enjoying the unseasonably warm November day. Kids climbed on playground equipment while parents chatted on benches. Normal. Safe. Except for the 3 unmarked cars positioned at different park entrances. This is ridiculous, Arya muttered, watching Milo run toward the swings. It's necessary. Sophia appeared beside her, wearing yoga pants and a hoodie that almost made her look like a regular mom. Almost. The bulge at her hip and the way her eyes constantly scanned the perimeter gave her away. Try to relax. Let the boys play. How am I supposed to relax when I'm meeting with
Luca.
Milo's shout interrupted her. The small boy came racing across the grass, Dante walking behind him at a measured pace. Today, the Mafia boss wore jeans and a black sweater, an attempt at casual that didn't quite work. He still moved like a predator, still commanded attention from every parent in the vicinity. Luca crashed into Milo with a hug that nearly knocked both boys over. You came. Papa said you might be busy. Mama said we could play for an hour, Milo said shyly. A whole hour. Come on, I want to show you the spinny thing. Luca grabbed Milo's hand and dragged him toward the merry-go-round. Dante stopped a respectful distance from Maria. Thank you for agreeing to this. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because Milo hasn't made a friend this quickly since she trailed off. Since his father left. Since they moved to the city with nothing. Since life got hard. Luca hasn't either, Dante's voice was soft. After his mother died, he withdrew. Stopped talking at school. Stopped playing with other children. His therapist said he was afraid of losing people. He watched his son laugh as Milo pushed the merry-go-round. This is the first time in 3 years I've heard him laugh like that. Arya felt her anger wavering. She didn't want to sympathize with Dante Romano. Didn't want to see him as anything other than the dangerous criminal disrupting her life. But watching him watch his son, she saw only a father, tired, worried, desperate to protect the one thing he loved most.
They can play, she said.
But we need to talk. Really talk. About what happens next. Agreed. He gestured to a bench within sight of the playground. Shall we? They sat and for a moment neither spoke. On the merry-go-round, Luca and Milo were creating an elaborate game involving pirates and treasure. Their laughter carried on the breeze. I'm sorry, Dante said finally. For the school. For the hospital donation. For all of it. Sophia told me you felt ambushed. I did feel ambushed. You're making decisions about my life without asking me. You're right, he turned to face her. But understand something. I grew up in a world where showing weakness gets you killed. Where hesitation means losing everything. When I see a threat to someone I care about, my instinct is to eliminate it completely and immediately. I'm not someone you care about. You barely know me. You threw yourself over my son. Dante's voice was fierce. You took a bullet meant for him. That makes you someone I care about whether you like it or not. Arya opened her mouth to argue, but Luca's voice cut through the air. Higher. Push higher. Milo was pushing the merry-go-round as fast as his small legs could manage, and Luca was laughing so hard he could barely hold on. 2 other children had joined them, a girl with braids and a boy with glasses, asking if they could play too. Is that your son? The boy's mother asked, sitting down next to Arya. He's so sweet with the little ones. Thank you, Arya said automatically. Yes, that's Milo. And that must be your husband? The woman nodded toward Dante.
Arya choked. Oh no.
We're not, he's just a friend helping with the kids. Dante finished smoothly. Co-parenting is complicated. The woman smiled knowingly.
Tell me about it.
My ex and I barely speak. Good for you too, staying civil for the children. After she left, Arya turned on Dante. Co-parenting? Would you prefer I told her the truth? That you saved my son from assassins, and now we're trapped in a complicated debt arrangement. His mouth twitched. That might raise questions. Despite herself, Arya almost smiled. Almost.
Papa. Arya.
Luca came running over, Milo close behind. Both boys were flushed and breathless. Can we get ice cream? Please? The truck is over there. Arya checked her watch. It's almost dinner time. Please, Mama? Milo's eyes were bright with hope. I never get to have ice cream with friends. The quiet desperation in that statement broke her heart.
Milo was right.
Their life was work, school, cheap dinners, and struggling to pay bills. There was never money for extras. Never time for playdates or ice cream or normal childhood things. Okay, she said softly. One ice cream. Both boys cheered and took off toward the truck. Dante stood, pulling out his wallet. I've got it, Arya said quickly.
Arya.
I can buy my son an ice cream. Her voice was sharp. I'm not destitute. I'm just careful with money. Dante studied her for a moment, then put his wallet away. Of course. I apologize. They walked to the truck together, the boys bouncing ahead. Arya ordered a basic vanilla cone for Milo. Luca, after much deliberation, chose chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. That'll be $8, the vendor said cheerfully. Arya handed over a $10 bill, ignoring the way Dante's jaw tightened. She knew what he was thinking, that $8 was probably nothing to him, probably less than he spent on coffee. But it mattered to her. It was independence, control, proof she could still provide for her son. The boys found a picnic table and immediately started comparing ice creams. Luca offered Milo a lick of his chocolate. Milo shared his vanilla in return. Within minutes, both had ice cream on their faces and were giggling uncontrollably. They're good together, Dante observed. Yeah, Arya watched them. They are. Luca's been asking when he can see Milo again. Every day. Multiple times a day. Milo too, she sighed. This is complicated. You know that, right? Our sons being friends means we have to interact. Be civil. Coordinate. I can do civil, Dante's voice held a hint of warmth. I'm doing it right now. You're also surrounded by armed guards. So are you. She couldn't argue with that. Luca suddenly jumped off the bench and ran back to them, ice cream dripping forgotten. Papa, can Milo come to my birthday party? It's in 2 weeks.
Can he?
Please. Dante looked at Arya, eyebrows raised in question.
Luca, sweetie.
We're having a magician and a bounce house and a cake that looks like a castle. Luca's enthusiasm was infectious. Milo has to come. He's my best friend. Best friend. 2 words that changed everything. Milo had appeared behind Luca, his expression hopeful but cautious. Can I, Mama? Arya looked at her son, her careful, quiet son who'd learned too young to not ask for things, who never complained about their small apartment or cheap toys, or missing the birthday parties he was never invited to.
He was asking now. For this.
Okay, she heard herself say.
Yes.
We'll come to the party. Both boys erupted in cheers, hugging each other and jumping up and down. Dante's expression was unreadable. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Arya said quietly. This doesn't mean I trust you, or that I'm okay with any of this. I know, he watched the boys return to their ice cream, but it's a start. And maybe Arya thought that was the most dangerous thing of all. Because starts led to middles. And middles led to endings. And she had no idea how the story would end. The warehouse district at midnight was all shadows and silence. Victor Castellano stood at the window of an abandoned factory, watching his city through dirty glass. Below, cargo ships docked at the pier, their shipping containers full of legitimate goods and other things. Things that made men like him very rich. Tell me again, he said to the man behind him. Everything you saw. Marco Russo, no relation to Dante's Marco, shifted nervously. He was a low-level informant, the kind who made money selling information to the highest bidder. Like I said, Mr. Castellano, Romano himself showed up at the elementary school. Walked the kids in. His son and some woman's kid. What woman?
Arya Chen.
Single mom, nurse at St. Mary's. Word is she took a bullet for Romano's boy during the shooting on Tuesday. Marco pulled out his phone, showing a grainy photo. This is her. Pretty young, looks normal. But Romano's been all over her since the shooting. Paid her hospital bills, fixed her credit, has guards on her 24/7". Victor studied the photo. The woman looked tired, ordinary, unremarkable. And Romano brought his son to meet her son at school? In front of everyone. Made a big show of it. Then Saturday they met at the park. Let the kids play together. Got ice cream. Marco scrolled through more photos, Dante and Arya sitting on a bench, the boys on the merry-go-round, all four of them at the ice cream truck. My source says Romano's never done this before. Never brought Luca around anyone outside the family. Victor's mind raced. In their world, every action was a message. Every public appearance was calculated. Dante Romano didn't do anything without purpose. Which meant this woman mattered. What else? Victor asked. The donation to St. Mary's, 2 million. Anonymous, but we traced it. Came from one of Romano's shell companies. Same hospital where she works. Marco pocketed his phone. Boss, everyone's talking. They think she's his new woman. That he's serious about her. After less than a week? Victor turned from the window.
No.
Romano's too smart to fall for someone that fast, especially someone from outside our world. This is something else. Then what? Victor walked to a table where a map of the city lay spread out, marked with territories and influence zones. Red for Romano Holdings, blue for Castellano, yellow for the smaller families. The colors had been static for years, an uneasy peace maintained by mutual assured destruction. But Victor was tired of peace, tired of sharing, and this woman might be exactly the opportunity he'd been waiting for. Romano's been untouchable for 3 years, Victor said quietly. Ever since his wife died, he's had nothing to lose except his son. And Luca's too well protected, private school, bodyguards, armored cars. Getting to that boy would take an army. But the woman's just a nurse, Marco said, catching on. Regular apartment, regular life. Easier target. Exactly, Victor smiled. If she matters to Romano, really matters, then she's leverage. We take her, we force Romano to the negotiating table. Maybe we get him to back off the port operations. Maybe we get concessions on territory. Maybe, he paused. Maybe we get enough to finally shift the balance of power in this city. You want to kidnap her? I want to understand what she is to him first. Victor picked up his phone. Put more eyes on her. I want to know everywhere she goes, everyone she talks to, every weakness in her security. And find out about the son. Kids are always the best leverage. Marco nodded and left, his footsteps echoing in the empty warehouse. Victor returned to the window, watching the ships unload in the darkness. For years, he'd been building his empire quietly, carefully, always in Dante Romano's shadow. The Romano family had ruled this city since Victor was a boy. They had the connections, the respect, the fear. But every empire had weaknesses. Every king had an Achilles heel. And Victor Castellano had just found Dante Romano's. 3 miles away, in his penthouse office, Dante Romano was having the same conversation from the opposite side. We have a problem, Marco. Dante's Marco stood before his desk, tablet in hand. Victor Castellano's been asking questions about Miss Chen. He's got people watching her apartment, following her to work, tracking her movements. Dante's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. How many people? At least 4 that we've identified. Could be more. Marco pulled up surveillance footage. This is from this afternoon. Castellano's man, outside her building. He was there for 3 hours. Dante watched the footage, his mind calculating angles and possibilities. Victor Castellano was ambitious, ruthless, and patient. For years, they'd maintained a careful balance. Romano controlled the north, Castellano controlled the south, and neither encroached on the other's territory. But Victor had been pushing boundaries lately, testing limits, looking for openings. And Dante had just handed him one. He thinks she's my weakness, Dante said quietly. Is she? Marco asked carefully. Dante stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city. Somewhere down there, Arya Chin was putting her son to bed, probably unaware that criminal empires were circling around her like sharks, scenting blood. She saved my son's life, Dante said. That makes her my responsibility, my debt, my honor. Castellano will interpret that as something else. I know, Dante turned back to Marco. Double her security. Put our best people on her. I want eyes on her apartment, her workplace, her son's school. If Castellano so much as breathes in her direction, I want to know about it. What about Miss Chin? Should we tell her? Dante thought about Aria's fierce independence, her pride, the way she'd bought her son ice cream with her own money despite knowing Dante would have paid for it without blinking. She was already struggling with the security presence. Telling her she was being actively targeted would terrify her. But not telling her might get her killed. Not yet, he decided. But brief Sophia. If the threat level increases, Aria needs to know immediately. No matter how much she'll hate hearing it. Marco nodded and left. Alone in his office, Dante pulled out his phone and scrolled to the photos from the park. Luca and Milo on the merry-go-round, laughing. Aria watching her son with such fierce love it made his chest ache. The four of them at the ice cream truck looking almost like a normal family. He'd been trying to protect her, to honor his debt, to keep her safe from the consequences of her bravery. Instead, he'd painted a target on her back. And Victor Castellano was taking aim. Dante made a call. Get me everything on Castellano's operations. Every warehouse, every shipment, every business. I want to know where he's vulnerable. Boss, his lieutenant asked. Are we going to war? Not if I can help it, Dante said. But if Castellano touches Aria Chun or her son, there won't be enough of him left to bury. He hung up and stared at the photo of Luca and Milo laughing together. Sometimes, he thought, the most dangerous thing you could have in this world wasn't power or money or weapons. It was something to lose. And Dante Romano had just discovered he had far more to lose than he'd realized. The fluorescent lights of the grocery store buzzed overhead as Aria pushed her cart down the cereal aisle. It was Tuesday evening, 5 days since the park, and she'd almost convinced herself that life was returning to normal. Almost. If she ignored the sedan that had followed her from the hospital. If she pretended the man browsing canned goods 3 aisles back wasn't one of Dante's guards. If she didn't think about how her son now asked daily when he could see Luca again. Mama, can we get the one with marshmallows? Milo pointed at a colorful box. That's basically candy for breakfast, baby. But Luca said his papa lets him have it on weekends.
Aria sighed.
Everything was about Luca now. Luca's toys, Luca's house, Luca's father, who apparently had looser rules about sugar. She grabbed the generic brand flakes instead. Her phone buzzed. Sophia, how much longer? Store closes in 30 minutes. Aria typed back. Doing my weekly shopping. It takes time. Make it quick. I don't like you being out after dark. Aria shoved her phone in her pocket, irritation flaring. She was a grown woman. She'd been taking care of herself and her son for years before Dante Romano entered her life. She didn't need a babysitter. She turned into the pasta aisle and stopped short. A man stood at the far end, not shopping, just watching. He was in his 30s, average height, forgettable face. But something about his stillness made her nurse instinct scream danger. Milo, stay close, she said quietly.
Nana.
It's okay. Just stay by the cart. She grabbed a box of spaghetti, her eyes on the man. He pulled out his phone, typed something, then looked directly at her. Their eyes met. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Aria's heart hammered. She turned the cart around, heading back the way she came. We're going to check out now, baby. But we didn't get everything. Now, Milo. She walked quickly toward the front, trying not to run. The man from the canned goods aisle, Dante's guard, had materialized beside the registers, his casual stance suddenly alert. He'd seen something too. Aria was fumbling for her wallet when she felt it, a presence too close behind her.
Aria Chen.
A hand gripped her arm, not hard, but firm, possessive. She spun around. The man from the pasta aisle stood inches away. Up close, she could see the cold calculation in his eyes, the earpiece hidden beneath his hair. Let go of me, her voice came out steadier than she felt. Mr. Castellano would like to speak with you. It's just a conversation. Nothing to worry about. Dante's guard was moving toward them, but he was 3 checkout lanes away. The man's grip tightened on Aria's arm.
Nana.
Milo's voice was scared. That was when Aria's survival instincts overrode her fear. She'd grown up in rough neighborhoods, worked night shifts in dangerous parts of the city. She knew how to handle threats. She drove her shopping cart hard into the man's shins. He grunted, his grip loosening for just a second. Aria yanked free and grabbed Milo, pulling him behind her. Stay back. The man recovered quickly, reaching for her again. But suddenly Dante's guard was there, his hand clamping on the man's wrist with audible force. I wouldn't, the guard said quietly. Two more of Romano's men appeared from nowhere. The store's other shoppers were staring now, some pulling out phones. The checkout clerk had frozen, her hand hovering over the panic button. The man raised his hand slowly, backing away. This is a public place. You really want to make a scene? You grabbed her first, Dante's guard said. That's assault. We're just protecting a civilian. She's not a civilian, the man's smile was sharp. She's Romano's woman. That makes her fair game. Get out, Dante's guard said. Before this gets ugly. The man looked at Aria one more time, his expression promising this wasn't over. Then he walked calmly toward the exit, pulling out his phone. Aria was shaking so badly she could barely stand. Milo pressed against her legs, crying softly. The guard touched her shoulder gently. Miss Chun, we need to leave.
Now.
More might be coming. My groceries. We'll send someone back for them. Please, his urgency penetrated her shock. She let him guide her and Milo toward the exit, the other guards flanking them. Outside, the sedan was already running, back door open. Sophia sat in the driver's seat, her expression grim. Get in, she commanded. Aria climbed in with Milo, her hands still shaking. The guards jumped into another vehicle. Both cars peeled out of the parking lot. What the hell was that? Aria demanded, her fear converting to anger. Who was that man? Castellano's enforcer. Sophia's eyes never left the road, weaving through traffic. Victor Castellano runs the south side. He's been watching you for days. We knew there was interest, but we didn't expect them to move this fast. Move? You mean kidnap me? In a grocery store? They wouldn't have taken you far. Just enough to scare you. To test Romano's response, Sophia made a sharp turn. It's a message. They're saying you're reachable. Vulnerable. I don't want to be a message. Aria's voice cracked. I just wanted to buy cereal. Milo was sobbing now, his face buried in her side. She wrapped her arms around him, her own tears threatening. Sophia's phone rang. She answered on speaker. Boss. Is she safe? Dante's voice was tight, with controlled fury.
Yes.
We're 10 minutes from the safe house. Safe house.
Aria interrupted. No.
We're going home. Miss Chun, that's not. I want to speak to him.
Now.
Sophia glanced at her in the rearview mirror, then said, She wants to talk to you. A pause. Then, put her on. Sophia handed back the phone. Aria took it with shaking hands. This is your fault, she said, her voice raw. You made me visible. You made me a target. And now my son, just watched a man grab me in a grocery store. I know, Dante's voice was rough.
Aria, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. But right now, I need you to go to the safe house. Just for tonight. Let me handle this. Handle this how? By making sure Victor Castellano understands that touching you was the last mistake he'll ever make. The cold promise in his voice should have scared her. Instead, some primal part of her felt relief. Protected. We're going to the safe house, she heard herself say. But tomorrow, you and I are having a very long conversation about what happens next. Whatever you want, Dante said. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up and pulled Milo closer, pressing her face into his hair. Through the window, she watched the city blur past. Her city, the place she'd worked so hard to build a life. And now she couldn't even buy groceries without armed men tracking her movements.
Nana.
Milo's voice was small. Are we in trouble? No. Baby, she kissed his forehead, tasting salt from his tears. We're not in trouble. We're just taking a little trip, like an adventure. But she was lying. They both knew it. They were in more trouble than Arya had ever imagined. And, the worst part? She had no idea how to get out. Sophia pulled up to a building Arya had never seen, nondescript, concrete, industrial. A garage door opened automatically. They drove inside and it closed behind them. Welcome to the safe house. Welcome to Dante Romano's world. There was no going back now. The safe house wasn't what Arya expected. She'd imagined something from a movie, concrete bunker, bars on windows, the aesthetic of a prison. Instead, it was a renovated loft in what looked like an old warehouse district. Exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, modern furniture. Clean, functional, almost comfortable. Almost. There are 2 bedrooms upstairs, Sophia explained, leading them through the space. Kitchen is fully stocked. Security monitors are in the office. Not that you need to worry about those. We handle everything. How long? Arya asked, Milo still clinging to her side. As long as necessary, Sophia's expression was sympathetic. I know this isn't what you wanted. What I wanted was a normal life. Arya's voice was hollow. That seems like a long time ago now. Sophia left them alone to get settled, which felt absurd. You didn't settle into captivity, even comfortable captivity. Arya took Milo upstairs, finding a bedroom with a proper bed and child-friendly decorations. Someone had clearly prepared for this possibility. That thought made her stomach turn. They'd planned for this, known she might need to hide. Can I call Daddy? Milo asked quietly, sitting on the bed. Arya's heart cracked. Milo's father had left when he was 3, moved across the country with vague promises of staying in touch. The calls had dwindled to birthdays and Christmas, then just birthdays, then nothing. But Milo still asked sometimes, especially when he was scared. Not right now, baby. But I'm here. I'm right here. Is Luca coming? Hope crept into his voice. Before she could answer, she heard the main door open downstairs. Voices, Sophia's and a deeper one that made Arya's pulse quicken. Dante had arrived. She settled Milo with a tablet and cartoons, then headed downstairs. Dante stood in the living area, still in his suit, his expression storm-dark. When he saw her, something in his face shifted. Are you hurt? He asked immediately.
No.
Shaken, but not hurt, she crossed her arms. We need to talk. I know, he gestured to the couch. Please. They sat, careful space between them. Sophia had disappeared, giving them privacy. Through the industrial windows, Arya could see the city lights, out there, but unreachable. Victor Castellano is making a move, Dante said without preamble. He's been looking for leverage against me for months. You saved Luca. I acknowledged that debt publicly, and he interpreted it as weakness. I'm not your weakness. I'm just someone who did the right thing. In my world, those are the same thing. Dante's voice was tired. Caring about anyone is a vulnerability. Showing gratitude is exposing your throat. And he stopped, jaw tight. I made it worse by being visible with you. I thought I was protecting you by making you untouchable. Instead, I made you a target. So what now? I hide here forever? Milo grows up in a safe house. No, Dante leaned forward, his intensity focused entirely on her. I'm going to end this. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Castellano. We're going to reach an understanding. An understanding?
Arya laughed bitterly.
You mean you're going to threaten him? I'm going to make him understand that you are completely off limits. That touching you, or even thinking about touching you, will have consequences he can't survive. And if he doesn't care about consequences, Dante's expression went cold. Then I'll remove the problem permanently. The casual way he said it, like discussing the weather, not murder, reminded Arya exactly who she was dealing with. Not a concerned friend. Not a grateful father. A mafia boss who solved problems with violence. I don't want anyone killed because of me, she said firmly. You won't have a choice in that, he stood, moving to the window. This is my world, Arya. My rules. You stepped into it when you saved Luca, and now I have to navigate it to keep you safe. I hate this, her voice broke. I hate all of this. I know, he turned back to her, and for a moment, the hardness in his face cracked. If I could undo it, if I could go back and shield Luca myself, spare you all of this, I would. But I can't. So I have to work with what is, not what should be. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted them. Milo appeared, rubbing his eyes.
Mama?
I can't sleep. It's too quiet. Arya was about to go to him when another sound came from the entrance. The door opening, small feet running.
Papa.
Luca burst into the room, still in his pajamas, launching himself at Dante. The Mafia boss caught him easily, his entire demeanor transforming.
Luca?
What are you doing here? Marco said you came to the warehouse place, so I made him bring me. Luca spotted Milo on the stairs. Milo, you're here. Are we having a sleepover? Marco appeared in the doorway, looking apologetic. He was very insistent, boss. Dante looked torn between anger and resignation. You can't just leave the house at night, Luca. But you did. And if Milo's here and you're here, then I should be here too. Luca's logic was unshakable. We're all friends now. Friends stay together when there's trouble. Milo had crept down the stairs, his fear momentarily forgotten. Really? A sleepover? Arya opened her mouth to object. This was already complicated enough without the boys getting more attached, but the hope in Milo's eyes stopped her. When had he last had a sleepover? When had he last had a friend who wanted to spend time with him? I suppose one night won't hurt, she found herself saying. Dante met her eyes across the room, and something passed between them, a shared understanding of being trapped by their children's happiness. One night, he agreed. But Luca, tomorrow we're having a serious talk about following rules.
Okay, Papa.
Luca was already pulling Milo toward the stairs. Come on. We can build a fort with the pillows. The boys disappeared upstairs, their voices rising in excited planning. Arya and Dante stood in the sudden silence. They're good for each other, Dante said quietly. That's what scares me. Arya moved to the stairs. Because when this ends, however it ends, one of them is going to get hurt. Maybe it doesn't have to end badly. She looked back at him, this dangerous man who'd upended her life, who was promising violence to protect her, whose son was currently giggling with hers upstairs. In your world, she said softly, how do things usually end? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew the truth. In Dante Romano's world, happy endings were the rarest commodity of all. Upstairs, the boys' laughter echoed through the safe house, innocent, joyful, oblivious to the storm gathering around them. And Arya wondered how long that innocence could possibly last. Later that night, after the boys finally fell asleep in their pillow fort, Arya stood at the window. The city stretched endlessly before her, full of people living normal lives, going to grocery stores without fear, tucking their children into their own beds.
Free.
Can't sleep? Dante's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him approach. Too much adrenaline. Too much fear. Too much. Everything. He stood beside her, both of them reflected in the dark glass. I meant what I said. I'll end this. You and Milo will be safe. At what cost? Whatever it takes. And that, Arya realized, was exactly the problem. Because she was starting to believe him. And belief, in Dante Romano's world, was the most dangerous thing of all. The field trip was supposed to be safe. Arya had argued against letting Milo go, had wanted to keep him close, keep him protected. But the boys had begged, and the trip was to the Children's Science Museum, heavily supervised, during school hours. Dante had personally vetted the security. 3 guards in plain clothes would shadow the group. The route was planned. Every contingency covered. It's a museum, Mama, Milo had pleaded that morning. With dinosaurs. Please. She'd relented. Said yes. Kissed him goodbye at the safe house, and watched him climb into the school bus with Luca, both boys chattering excitedly about fossils and meteors. Now, for hours later, her phone was ringing. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. "They're fine," Sophia said immediately before Arya could even speak.
Both boys are fine.
But there was an incident. The world tilted. What kind of incident? Castellano's men tried to grab Luca during the museum visit. They failed. Our people got there in time. But Miss Chun, Sophia's voice tightened. Milo was with him. They tried to take both boys. Arya couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
Her son. Someone had tried to take her son. Where are they now? En route back to the safe house. ETA 10 minutes. Dante's with them. Arya was already grabbing her keys when she remembered. She couldn't leave. The safe house was her prison as much as her protection. She could only pace the industrial loft like a caged animal, watching the security monitors, waiting. When the door finally opened, Milo ran straight to her.
Nana.
He crashed into her arms, and she held him so tight he squeaked. "Mama." There were bad men, but Mr. Dante stopped them, and it was really scary, but I'm okay. I promise I'm okay.
Sho, baby. I've got you.
You're safe. She looked over his head to where Dante entered, carrying Luca. The little boy was crying, his face buried in his father's shoulder. Dante's suit was torn at the shoulder. His knuckles were bloodied. And his expression was something beyond fury. It was primal, paternal rage barely contained. What happened?
Arya demanded.
"Let me get Luca settled first," Dante's voice was rough. "Then we'll talk." They put both boys in the upstairs bedroom with Marco standing guard outside. Luca had finally stopped crying, clinging to Milo like a lifeline. The two friends huddled together under blankets, and Arya's heart broke at how small they looked. How scared. Downstairs, Dante poured himself 3 fingers of whiskey and downed it in one swallow. "Tell me," Arya said. They waited until the group was in the planetarium. Dark room, kids distracted by the show, his jaw was tight.
4 men.
2 blocked the exits. 2 moved on the boys. Our guards engaged, but it was close. Too close. How did they even know the boys would be there? Someone at the school talked. "We're investigating." He poured another drink, but didn't touch it. Milo tried to fight them off. Arya's blood ran cold. What? When they grabbed Luca, Milo kicked one of them.
Hard.
Then screamed for help. Dante's expression was complicated, pride mixed with horror. "Your 7-year-old son tried to protect mine. He could have been killed." Arya's voice rose. "He's a child, not a bodyguard." "I know." Dante turned to face her, and she saw something broken in his eyes. "I know." And that's when I realized, this has to stop. All of it. "What do you mean?" He moved closer, his intensity focused entirely on her. "I've spent 3 years building an empire, accumulating power, territory, influence. I told myself it was for Luca, to give him security, legacy, options. But today, watching him cry in my arms because someone tried to kidnap him, I understood something." "What?" "The empire is what's putting him in danger," Dante's voice cracked. "Not protecting him. Threatening him. Every territory I control, every deal I make, every enemy I create, it all comes back to him. And now to you and Milo too." Arya stared at him. "You're not making sense." "I'm making perfect sense for the first time in years." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so human it startled her. "My wife asked me before she died to give Luca a normal life. I said I would, but I didn't. I couldn't let go of the power, the control, the life I knew. So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm stepping back. Way back. From the frontline operations, from the territory disputes, from all of it." His voice was firm. "My underboss can handle the legitimate businesses. The rest, the violence, the wars, the constant threats, I'm done." "You can't just quit the Mafia," Arya said. "Can you?" "I can step away from leadership. Become an advisor instead of a boss. Let someone else handle the dangerous work while I focus on what matters." He looked toward the stairs where the boys were. "My son, his future, his safety. This is because of today. This is because of you." Dante's eyes met hers. You threw yourself over my son without hesitation. You took a bullet for a stranger's child. And your son, your brave, beautiful son, tried to protect Luca today, even though he was terrified. His voice dropped. You both showed me what real courage looks like. Not the violence and power I've relied on. Real courage. The kind that sacrifices for others. Arya felt tears threatening. I don't want to be responsible for you changing your entire life. You're not responsible. You're the reason I finally see clearly. He stepped closer. Arya, I can't promise I'll ever be a good man. My past is too dark for that. But I can choose what I become from here. For Luca. He stopped, seeming to catch himself. For what? He looked at her for a long moment, and Arya felt something shift in the air between them. Something dangerous and inevitable. For the possibility of something better, he said finally. Before she could respond, Milo's voice called from upstairs.
Mama?
Luca wants you to read us a story. The moment broke. Arya headed for the stairs, then paused. Dante? What happens with Castellano now? His expression hardened. I'm meeting him tomorrow. One final time. After that, he'll either leave you alone, or he'll disappear. Those are his only two options. I know you don't want violence. But some things can't be resolved with words. His voice gentled.
Go.
Read to the boys. Let me handle the dark parts. Upstairs, she found both boys curled up together, their earlier fear already fading the way children's fears do. Luca handed her a book about dragons.
This one, he said.
It's my favorite. The dragon protects the kingdom. As Arya read about brave dragons and protected kingdoms, she was aware of Dante standing in the doorway, watching. The Mafia boss who was trying to become something else. Something better. For his son. For her son. Maybe even for her. The story ended with the dragon finding peace after years of fighting, choosing to guard instead of attack, to protect instead of conquer. I like that ending, Lucas said sleepily. The dragon's happy. Yeah, Milo agreed, already half asleep. Happy's good. Arya looked up to find Dante still watching, his expression unreadable. Could a dragon really stop breathing fire? Could a man like Dante Romano truly walk away from violence? She didn't know. But for the first time since this all began, she found herself hoping the answer was yes. Because happy endings, she was learning, weren't impossible. Just rare. And maybe, just maybe, worth fighting for. 7 days could change everything. Arya stood at the window of the safe house, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. 1 week since the attempted kidnapping. 1 week since Dante had promised to end this. And he had. The meeting with Victor Castellano had been brief, conclusive, and miraculously bloodless. Dante had presented evidence of Castellano's operations to the city's other crime families, evidence that proved Victor had been skimming from shared ventures, breaking ancient agreements, violating the code that kept their world from tearing itself apart. Given the choice between war with every family in the city or backing off completely, Victor had chosen survival. The threat was over. But nothing felt the same.
Nanga.
Milo appeared in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Is today the day we go home? Arya's chest tightened. Home. Their small apartment with the dripping faucet and peeling wallpaper. The life they'd had before everything changed. Yes, baby. We can go home today. Milo's expression was complicated for a 7-year-old. Will we still see Luca? I don't know. But he's my best friend. Milo's voice went small. I don't want to lose my best friend. Before Arya could answer, the main door opened. Dante entered carrying coffee and a bag from the bakery down the street, a routine he'd fallen into over the past week. Every morning, bringing breakfast, checking on them, slowly becoming part of their temporary life. Good morning, he said, then caught the somber mood. What's wrong? We're going home today, Arya said. Milo's worried about not seeing Luca. Dante set down the coffee and crouched to Milo's level. You'll see him. As much as you want. That's not changing. Promise. I promise. Dante held out his pinky, and Milo hooked his own around it, a solemn vow between males of different generations. After Milo went to get dressed, Dante straightened, his expression uncertain. We should talk about what happens next. They sat with their coffee, the industrial loft feeling smaller somehow, more intimate. I've made arrangements, Dante said. A new apartment for you if you want it. Better neighborhood, better security. Not because you need guards anymore, Castellanos backed off completely, but because you deserve better than a place with a leaking faucet. Dante. Let me finish, he set down his cup. Your student loan debt is cleared. I've also established a trust for Milo's education, all the way through college, wherever he wants to go. And there's a fund for you if you want to pursue advanced nursing degrees or anything else you want. Arya felt overwhelmed. That's too much. It's not enough. It will never be enough. His voice was intense. You saved my son's life, Arya. You took a bullet for him. Your son tried to protect him during a kidnapping attempt. There is no dollar amount that balances that scale. I didn't do it for money. I know. That's exactly why you deserve it, he leaned forward. But money isn't the real debt. The real debt is this. You showed me that my son's life was worth more than my empire. That being his father mattered, more than being a boss. You gave me permission to choose differently. And have you? Arya asked quietly. Chosen differently? I've stepped back from frontline operations. My underboss handles the territory disputes now. I'm focusing on the legitimate businesses, the restaurants, the real estate, the investments. He paused. And Luca. Spending real time with him. Being present. Taking him to school myself every day. Arya smiled despite herself. The parents must love that. They're terrified, his mouth quirked. But they're polite. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Dante said, carefully, there's one more thing I want to offer. But this one, you can absolutely refuse. What? Let me be part of your life. Genuinely. Not as a debt, not as protection, but as, he struggled for words. The boys are best friends. They make each other better. Happier. And I think he met her eyes. I think maybe we do too. Make each other better. Arya's heart stuttered. Dante, I'm a single mom and a nurse. You're someone trying to be better than he was, he interrupted. Someone who's seen what real courage looks like and wants to be worthy of it. This is complicated. Everything worth having is complicated, his voice softened. I'm not asking you to fall in love with me. I'm not even asking you to date me. I'm just asking you to let me know you. Let the boys be friends without walls between us. Let me take you both to dinner sometimes. Let me be present in your life. Honestly. Why?
Arya whispered.
Because in 1 week, you've made me laugh more than I have in 3 years. Because Luca lights up when he talks about you and Milo. Because when I think about my future now, it feels empty if you're not in it somehow. He reached across the space between them, not touching but close. Because you make me want to be the kind of man who deserves to be in your life. Arya looked at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd turned her world upside down. She should say no. Should take Milo and run back to their simple life. Should protect her heart and her son from the risk of caring about someone from such a different world. But Milo's laughter echoed from upstairs, him and Luca, already on a video call, already planning their next playdate. And she thought about how Dante brought coffee every morning. How he'd read dragon stories with surprising gentleness. How he'd looked at her after the museum attack, broken and determined to change. Dinner, she said finally. We can start with dinner. Once a week. The 4 of us. Somewhere normal, no fancy restaurants where people stare. Dante's expression transformed. I know a pizza place. Very normal. Excellent arcade games. Arcade games? For the boys, he said innocently. Obviously. Arya found herself smiling. And Dante? This doesn't mean. I know. One step at a time. I can do slow. I can do patient. His eyes held hers. I've waited 3 years to feel anything other than grief and responsibility. I can wait however long it takes for you to trust this. To trust you. To trust us, he stood, offering his hand. Come on. Let's tell the boys about pizza and arcade games. I want to see them lose their minds with excitement. Arya took his hand, warm, solid, scarred from a violent life, but gentle now. They went upstairs together to where two 7-year-olds were planning their future with the absolute certainty of children who'd never learned to doubt. 3 weeks later, Arya stood on a beach overlook, the ocean stretching endless before her. Dante had suggested it, a day trip, all 4 of them, away from the city and its complications. Luca and Milo raced along the sand below, chasing waves and shrieking with laughter. 2 bodyguards watched from a discreet distance, but they felt less like prison guards now. More like insurance, a precaution in an increasingly safe world. They're good together, Dante said beside her. They are. Arya leaned against the railing. Milo's teacher said he's more confident now. More social. Luca's good for him. Luca's therapist said the same thing. That Milo makes him braver. Willing to try new things. They watched in comfortable silence as the boys built an elaborate sandcastle, negotiating architecture with the seriousness of tiny engineers. I've been thinking, Arya said. About what you said. About debt. Yeah. I don't think you owe me anything anymore, she turned to face him. You've kept us safe. You've given Milo a best friend. You've shown up every week, exactly like you promised. Whatever debt you thought you had, it's paid. Dante's expression grew serious. And if I keep showing up anyway? Not because I owe you, but because I want to. Then that's different, Arya's voice was soft. That's not a debt. That's a choice. Good, he moved closer, his hand finding hers on the railing. Because I'm choosing you, Arya Chen. Slowly, patiently, for as long as it takes. I'm choosing this. Sunday beach trips and Wednesday pizza nights and whatever else our complicated lives can build together. We're from completely different worlds. We were, he smiled. But I think we're building a new one. One where former Mafia bosses take their kids to arcades. Where brave nurses give dangerous men second chances. Where 2 boys who survived something terrible become best friends despite everything. Below, Luca waved frantically.
Papa. Arya. Come see.
We made a castle with a moat. They're calling us, Dante said. Yeah, Arya squeezed his hand. They are. They walked down to the beach together, their hands still linked, toward 2 boys who'd brought them together in the most unlikely way possible. Toward a future that was complicated and uncertain and maybe, just maybe, beautiful. Behind them, the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange and pink. A perfect ending to an imperfect day. Or maybe not an ending at all. Maybe just a beginning. The kind that started with a split-second decision to save a stranger's child and led to something neither of them could have predicted. Love built on bullets and bravery. A family forged from danger and devotion. A second chance neither of them had known they needed. And as Dante helped Milo dig the moat deeper while Arya taught Luca to find seashells, as 4 lives intertwined in the fading light, one truth became absolutely clear. Some debts couldn't be repaid with money or power or promises. Some debts could only be honored with presence, patience, and the courage to build something new from the ruins of what was. And that, Arya thought, watching Dante laugh at something Milo said, was worth more than any debt could ever be. The end.